Hey everyone, it's Lindsay from GetMealPlans.com, Meal Mentor, and today I'm going to show you my Thanksgiving game plan. Thanksgiving is my Olympics. Every year I have to do a big deal and it has to be perfect. It all has to come out at the same time and be warm. I have to just feel like Martha Stewart. It's my Olympics. I have to rock it. I have a big party with lots of friends and family. But at the same time is I don't want to be exhausted. I don't want to spend the whole time in the kitchen. I want to actually talk and hang out with my friends and my family. And so I use my game plan and I actually get the whole thing done, like this big, beautiful 9-10 course Thanksgiving, this whole thing in about 2 hours. And a lot of that is just passive. It's like baking time because things take about 60 minutes in the oven. But really, 10 courses, get it all out perfect, beautiful, executed, feel like Martha Stewart in 10 hours. And my secret is a game plan. And I have to give up props to Ina Garten because she said it in her show or something. And I was like, yes, have a plan. Spend 5 to 10 minutes of thinking it out, when to put things in the oven, when to make things, when to assemble them, what can be made ahead. Just plan it out. Planning is the secret to every success in life, I'm telling you. But just planning it out, spending these few minutes to do it, it makes everything go so much better. You're a lot less stressed. There's less anxiety. There's something magical about just getting it on paper. And so I'm going to show you my Thanksgiving plan and tell you exactly how, step by step, I'm going to execute my menu in 2 hours. And it's going to be an awesome day, and you're going to have an awesome day, and it's going to be great. Step one is planning your menu. And I'm doing two things. I am picking a few items from the meal plan this week, which is the November 16th meal plan from GetMealPlans.com. And I'm also going to do a few from my Happy Herbivore Holidays and Gatherings cookbook. If you're already a meal plan member, you can get the Thanksgiving recipes I'm using, in this video that I'm feeding my family that I'm talking about. They're on the dashboard in your Thanksgiving ebook. So if you're a member or you're joining, get these recipes that I'm making. These are my tried and true recipes I make every year for my family. Anyway, so first thing is every year I make butternut soup. And so the butternut soup is kind of my backup. So I always make it. I don't necessarily serve it, but I have it for two reasons. One, in case something doesn't execute, I have that as my backup. Two, in case I get behind or something's not cooking fast enough or something happens with the oven, any number of things can go wrong. I have that soup there and ready because my guests come. They come hungry. They come ready to eat. They haven't had anything all day because they're like, Lindsay, I knew I was coming and you were going to do 10 courses, so I didn't eat. And so they're hungry, so I know at the very least I have this soup to feed them, and if I don't end up serving it, cool, soup for me for the rest of the week, soup for the next day. And one year I actually put it all in mason jars with a little ribbon and gave it away as a gift because Thanksgiving is about gratitude and, family, not just the food. So that's something. So every year I do butternut soup, so I have to write that on my plan. Green beans are a big thing in my family, so is cornbread. I also do cran sauce, mashed potatoes, stuffing, which is my dad's favorite. Oh, pumpkin pie, of course. Thanksgiving loaf. I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, gravy. And knowing myself, I'll probably still throw in a salad or something will inspire me. Last year I was inspired and randomly sacrificed my centerpiece and made a kale and acorn squash. It's just how I am. But anyway, first you start with your recipes. You pick them out, and like I said, you can use my book, you can use the internet, whatever. After I have my list, I then write an estimation of how long it takes to sort of prep it, chopping the ingredients, and then how long it takes to actually cook it, whether it's cooking it on the stove or letting it bake in the oven. Most recipes will give you these cook times or prep times. If not, you can read the directions to kind of get a gist. I highly recommend making something before, not the day of for the first time, just so you know. But if you can't do that, no biggie, just kind of add another 10 or 15 minutes for safety. And so, for example, I know that my butternut, I have to roast it first, and then I have to make it too. Green beans, there's the trimming, the cornbread. Pumpkin pie. Thanksgiving loaf. The gravy. So you can see I've estimated all of my times. And once you have that, that's sort of the first step. think about things that you can make ahead. And with Thanksgiving and like in particular, there's a lot of things you really want to make ahead. So in my case, pumpkin pie and cranberry sauce, I always make ahead. I typically make them the weekend before. Thanksgiving's on a Thursday, so I'll make them the Friday or Saturday. When I've had family come that weekend, I'll have made it the weekend before or the week before. One year, I actually made cranberry sauce a month in advance and froze it. But things like Thanksgiving loaf and cranberry sauce, you don't want to do day of because they have to cook, then they have to cool, and then they have to chill for several hours before they can be served. And these are things that are just better when they've kind of had a few days to like flavor up. So always do them ahead. And so I always do that. I always put a note on my calendar like pumpkin pie on Saturday. And usually I'll treat myself and watch like, I don't know, I'll binge on the Mindy Project or something to like, you know, treat myself while I'm doing it. But that's one of the things that I'll do. Another thing is with like my butternut and my potatoes is I'll usually make those not the day of either. I'll put a note to roast the butternut squash when I put in my pumpkin pie because if I'm using the oven anyway. And then with the mashed potatoes, I'll just make a note someday that week, like that morning before I leave for work, to put them in my pressure cooker, and then I'll just put the cooked potatoes in my fridge and then mash them the day, you know, warm and mash them the day of Thanksgiving. Or even during the week, like if we're watching a movie or we're playing cards or we're putting a puzzle together, which is something my family does, I'll, you know, remind myself to go do the potatoes. But I'm always cooking potatoes. It's part of my routine, but I'll also leave notes like all around my house. Like make, you know, put a bag of potatoes, boil them, pressure cook them, do something so that you have them. And so I'm just going to write those notes to myself now to do it in advanced. Pumpkin pie, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce. Okay. So from there, the next thing I do is I work backwards. I decide what time I want all of my food to be served and come out. And so for us, that's 4 o'clock. So that's my deliverable time. See, I've written 4 o'clock. And so what do I want to come out at 4 o'clock? Like what is serving at that time? Well, I want my Thanksgiving loaf to come out. And so knowing that my Thanksgiving loaf needs 40 minutes in the oven with 20 minutes to cool, and it's gonna, so just knowing that, I know that means it's 60 minutes. I know that means at 3 o'clock, let me give myself some space. 3 o'clock, I have to put loaf in the oven. And I also know that it's going to take about 25 minutes to make it. So from 2:30 to 3, I need to make the loaf. Now I also know since the loaf's in, from 3 to 4, I have that hour because it's just going to be in the oven. I could spend it with my family, but I'm going to instead use that last hour to sort of like finish up the last of my things so stuff is super fresh. So one of those things, and I like to check things off once I've decided them. One of those things is the gravy, which I know is the last 10 minutes, but I don't want to bank it right up to 4 o'clock. So we'll say from 3:30 to 3:45, I'll do my gravy. And that gives me, like I said, that 15-minute buffer. And then I also will need to do my green beans. And the great thing about the green beans is I can just put them in the steamer or in a pot or something and not even pay attention to them. So I can actually do the green beans at the exact same time. And so that's when those will be done. And so I can check that off too. So all that leads is my cornbread and my stuffing. And so with my cornbread, I know I can make that in before my loaf. They could go in at the same time too, but I know I could do that before my loaf because that doesn't have to be like piping hot when I serve it. And so from 2 to 2:30, I make my cornbread, which means that when my cornbread is coming out, my loaf will be going in. And then I can also make my stuffing, and my stuffing, because my stuffing, so let's see, and then from 2 to 2:30, I can make my stuffing, and because that's, for my stuffing, I can just assemble it, but then put it in with the loaf. And then I'll put it in with my loaf. I also need to leave a note to stale my bread the night before. The night before Thanksgiving, I always leave my bread out to stale it for Thanksgiving, but if I forget, I can toast it day of. And that's done. And the only thing left is my mashed potatoes, and I still have that time from 3 to 3:30, so that's when I can make my mashed potatoes. And if I don't remember to make my potatoes that ahead of it, I can do it at that time. And then that's it. That's pretty much my whole 2 hours. So to sort of summarize, oh, I need to add a preheat my oven. And I'll leave notes around the house, like preheat oven at 2 o'clock and set an alarm on my phone. So this is my 2-hour plan for all of my courses. So at 2 o'clock, I'm going to preheat my oven. And then as my oven's preheating, I'm going to make my stuffing, which is just sort of like chopping up the bread and doing the seasonings and setting it aside to stick in later. And then I'm also going to make my cornbread and then put my cornbread in. And so from 2 to 2:30, my cornbread is going to bake. And while it's baking, I'm going to prepare my loaf. Now, I could prepare my loaf ahead and then that'd be one less thing to do that day. But I'm going to make it fresh. And so I'm going to prepare my loaf. And then as soon as my loaf is done, the cornbread will come out. The loaf will go in along with the stuffing. And while that's, in there baking and sort of doing its thing, I'm going to mash my potatoes and warm them. I'm going to blend my butternut soup because, like I said, I'll have baked my butternut ahead. But even if not, I could just do it that morning or I could start an hour earlier. But I'm going to blend my soup and have it warm on standby in case something doesn't come out. And then I'm also going to make my gravy. And that's the same thing as I could slice my onions and my mushrooms ahead of time to save even, like a day before and even less time, but you've seen me in my batch videos. I'm super fast, so I don't need to do that. But then as soon as my gravy is done and my soup is warm and my mashed potatoes have been warming, the Thanksgiving loaf will come out. And so then I can take my loaf to the table. I can take my new gravy to the table. The green beans will be done. I'll be able to have the cornbread. It'll have been cooling the whole time. I can pull the pumpkin pie and the cranberry sauce out because that was made on the weekend. And I mean, bada bing, bada boom, right? It's all going to be done. And it really won't even take the full 2 hours, but I like to give myself a little bit of time because my parents inevitably come in the kitchen and want to look around and talk, and so do my friends. But that's it. It's really easy. It's just having this game plan and saying step by step, I'm going to make this, and this goes in when, and this goes in when, and just saying it, and something about writing it down. It just makes you feel so much better. But there's my plan, and I'll try to take a picture and put it up on the blog or something for you, but it's going to be an awesome Thanksgiving. You're going to have an awesome Thanksgiving. If you are a planner or you do things ahead or you have any other tips for having your own game plan, please share them in a comment. Help everyone out so we can all have an awesome Thanksgiving. But really, man, have the Thanksgiving plan. If you are a member of getmealplans.com, you can get all of these recipes that I'm going to be making from the Thanksgiving book on your dashboard, which has more tips for planning and also how to serve and just make it a beautiful experience. But Thanksgiving is about gratitude, and I am thankful for all of you, and thank you for watching, and please share your comments, and if you want to learn more, getmealplans.com. Thanks for watching.